Alright, some of the smartest people I know are broke. Which doesn't make any sense because the way we are told by society how smart dudes live their lives is they make a ton of money and live in luxury, right? Time and time again we see all these celebrities and businessmen like Jeff Bezos, which by the way homie is living in a penthouse and he's paying a monthly fine to the city for keeping tree fences up exceeding the permitted height and shit. Which is crazy because I used to have a very close friend, you know, the smartest guy I ever met. Homie was a giant tweaker for physics. He was extremely into that and was also crazy street smart. But he lived in a basement surrounded by books, bro. Whenever I would come, homie would be reading a book, dude. Which always confused me. Because if being smart is supposed to create success, why was bro living in a basement surrounded by books? Have you ever noticed when somebody buys a Lamborghini or a dude sells a company for, you know, like 50 million, everybody assumes they're a genius? I feel like whenever someone makes a lot of money, everyone automatically assumes they're smart. Why does society define being smart that way? The smartest person I ever met was broke. And the more I think about it, the more I think society has no idea what being smart actually means. My physics bro wasn't money maxing. He was life maxing, dude. You see so many people nowadays optimizing their lives for so many different things. Some people will go with their lives to go crazy for status. Some will go crazy for things like watches or purses or some shit. So they need to grind for money to obtain all these things. But then you have dudes who will straight up lock themselves in their basement to read books and shit. Dude, maybe each of us through life finds something they're into and just does everything they can to get that thing. Optimizing every aspect of their lives to get that thing. Maybe that's what life is about. Maybe it's just about finding that secret sauce for yourself. That's when I started thinking about life like a video game. Because life is straight too short, bro. What can we do to make the best of it? You know, what if it all means we just need to do more life maxing? You know how in games there's experience points to level up your character? It's the same thing in life. You get XP to level up your life, dude. Ask yourself, how much of that XP do you have right now? Chances are, if you're grinding no breaks, you don't have much of it. But here's the thing. Just like in games, there's plenty of XP to get by life maxing, dude. For me, I've done a bunch of traveling recently, and that should boost your XP by a tenfold. Traveling is a great example because it really puts a lot of things into perspective how well you can spend your time sometimes. One interesting thing is that on one hand, we have guys like the physics bro who don't care about money and those who will go out of their way to make excess, like, I don't know, for example, Elon Musk. Why are some guys like this? Have you noticed some dudes will literally make their job their whole personality? I'm talking the only thing that comes to mind when hanging out is work. You ask bro how he's doing and he starts going about what he's doing at work. Ask what he's been up to recently and he says he's been busy with work all week. You ask what are you looking forward to and somehow that's work too. But that's not even the weirdest part. Some of these dudes are making more money than ever. Yet somehow they seem less excited about life than they were when they were broke. But I understand, bro, because I used to also be in that same boat. You wake up and go to work, you go back and you get the bag. It feels like you're doing something right and it's so easy, right? But here's the thing. It can get to a point where every day you wake up, sit on the chair every morning in your room and start tweaking on your laptop for like, 10 hours a day. Every day becomes work. Every conversation becomes work. And it's like, wait, I'm actually miserable. I'm not going anywhere. Every day of the week, I would buy the bare minimum, I'm talking like chicken rice with some veggies, dude. For years, I thought I was winning. I had the job. I had the paycheck and you're told that's what smart people do. Then one day I looked around and realized my entire life didn't move anywhere. It felt like I had the exact same amount of XP before I even started working. Maybe we've been measuring being smart wrong. Maybe people measure being smart through money because that's just an easy thing to measure. But the thing is, life is just more complicated than that. It seems to me most of us are pushed to go along the traditional path. You know, where you graduate college, find a corporate job, climb the ladder, and you'll get there eventually, right? It's a little frustrating because, you know, obviously you don't want to be dumb. If you're anything like me, you don't ask questions and you keep going because millions of other people have gone on that path and society hasn't collapsed yet. But when you start to ask questions, it starts to get a little weird because it literally makes you question, why would anyone constantly keep going and grinding? It feels like there is only a certain amount of money you actually need to be happy. And no matter how much money you get above that amount, it straight doesn't matter. And if you're miserable working for that money, why do it? I'm changing the way I view smart people. The thing is, the smartest people aren't the people making the most money. I feel like the old dudes who walked and are still walking the traditional path have conditioned us to think that way. Our generation inherited a definition of success that made sense 30 years ago. Back then, climbing the ladder actually gave you freedom. Now, a lot of people climb the ladder just to get more ladder. It's like, wait, something really doesn't make any sense here. Why would anyone want to do this to themselves? Why grind so much just to be miserable? But the craziest part is people will start glazing you for being, you know, quote unquote smart for doing this to yourself. That's why we see a generational shift happening nowadays. Dudes are starting to realize non-stop grinding starts to look pretty unappealing, dude. Maybe the smartest people aren't the people making the most money. Maybe they're the people who figured out how to spend their time. Because at the end of the day, you can always make more money. You can't make more life, right?